Hello everyone, it is Carene with Carene Loves to Plan. Thank you for joining me in my little corner of the internet, and today we're going to do the final installment of 15 Inks 30 Days for January. So let's get right into it. I'll be in my Hobonichi A5 notebook with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. I will be doing some swatching with my Browse Ornament 3mm nib, and then I'll also be doing swatching in my Hemlock and Oak Archivist notebook. Let's get started. So, where is my stuff? The first pen and ink combination is going to be my Sailor, and this is the Hachimonjiya Pro Gear in the Kubozakura, and I have it inked with Sailor Shikiori Harahara. So I first tried this ink, maybe it was a couple of years ago, and I tried a sample of it, absolutely loved it, and then just decided, you know what, I should just buy a bottle because it's a beautiful purple. And I have a thing for purples. I never thought I would like purples as much as I do, but look at me now. Oh, look at that. Just glides so beautifully off of that Browse Ornament nib. Gorgeous. So the ink is Sailor Shikiori Harahara, and the pen is my Hachimonjiya Pro Gear in the Kubozakura, and this has a fine nib. I know it's not an exact match color wise, but oh my gosh, the combination of this fine nib with that ink, so pretty. So let's go into my Archivist notebook. So I'm going to use my water brush now and paint on the different papers here. The first is the Archivist paper. Then we have Tomoe River paper. Oh gosh, I'm always so excited for the Sailor inks because the chromo shading is just awesome. And then we have Rhodia here. This is a new water brush for me, so I'm still getting used to it. And then Midori. And then we have Iroful. And then Onion Skin. Oh, look at the chromo shading that's happening already. And then we have Yamamoto Bank, which I purchased at the San Francisco Pen Show. And then lastly, Bank. I think I'm going to add a little bit more to that one here. There we go. How cool. You can see the transformation happening right there. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a Zentangle, and this one is from Carene, and I left a link to their Instagram account down below in the description. So when I do these doodles, see, you already saw that I made a mistake there. It's not necessarily about perfection because I've already done it wrong. There we go. Is that it? I really should study these patterns before I make an effort to do these. And yeah, it really is about just the practice of being able to do the pattern and doing this repeating strokes over and over again. And creating a piece of art. But it's also about the calming effect of being able to do the same strokes over and over again. But also we're not striving for perfection here because I know I've already screwed this up. Oh, because it's so small. Okay, let's try this one more time. Okay. And then we'll draw the diagonal line. And then do this. And then this. And here. And then we do the fourth one like this. And Okay, I see it. See, it's better when you do them like that, so then you can really see the bigger picture. And there we go. I loved these two together. Harahara is a gorgeous muted gray purple, and it flows really well out of this fine nib. So I gave the ink a 9 because, I mean, it's just stunning. The flow a 10 because I like it just a little bit extra wet, and the comfort level of the Pro Gear an 8. And here's what all of the different paper swatches look like. Look at all of the chromo shading that's happening with Harahara. There's bits of green in there on the edges and a little bit of pink. Very, actually, even if you look at the bank, there's a lot more kind of gray tone in there. It's just such an interesting ink. It's definitely showing more purple when you do the paper swatches, and when you add a little bit more water to it, shows a little bit more purple. But then here it's got that darker burgundy happening there. And then when you look at the Zentangle or the Doodle, let's zoom out a little bit. Look at that. You know what? I actually had a lot of trouble with this one. I don't know what it was about this. I think it was all of the little patterns in here and then trying to get them to match up. In the end, I think I just powered through the last half of this just to make sure that I could get it done. And I'm so glad that I did. It looks really, really cool when you see it all in one like that, because really when you're doing each grid, it's basically one little square like that, and then once it all comes together you can really see the bigger picture. Really fun pairing with my Hachimonjiya Kubozakura with a fine nib and Sailor Shikiori Harahara. The next pen and ink combination for day 12 is my TWSBI Eco in Caffe Bronze, and I have it inked with Kitty Inkpot, a certain soft candy. So let's go ahead and do my swatch. And we have number 12. Now, my pen and ink pairings don't always match exactly. Sometimes it's about the pen and ink combination, or like the nib and ink combination, and wanting to try out different pens with different inks may not always match, and that's okay. But I'm loving how this is looking. Oop, I went into the wrong line there. So the ink is Kitty Inkpot, a certain, whoa, I can't write, certain soft candy. And the pen is my TWSBI Eco in Caffe Bronze, and this has an extra fine nib. So let's go ahead and then do the swatches first on the archivist paper. And I feel like I'm being really bold here that I'm doing all of these swatches like back to back, and that I'm not the way that I was with Tomoe River paper, basically skipping a page because of the shadowing and the bleed through. But I haven't really had that issue with the archivist paper, which is amazing. This paper is from Hemlock and Oak, and it's something that they had been working on for a while, and they wanted to find a paper that was sustainable but was still fountain pen friendly. Lovely. So I'm now going to do my Zentangle with my TWSBI Eco. And it's so interesting actually doing these now in my archivist notebook, because the grid is larger, the paper is different. So I'm having to get used to how things are done in this book. And what am I doing? Talking while trying to do a Zentangle. Not always the best idea. Okay, I think I've done this one before. And I don't mind doing repeats just because, oh, it has to touch the bottom. Just because it's nice to see some of the same patterns with different pen and ink combinations. Plus, sometimes some of these are just fun to do. Some patterns are more fun than others. I'm not sure why. Like, I love the patterns with a lot of straight lines. I feel like straight lines are easier for me than some of these curved ones, especially these swirls. I don't know what it is. Like, that looks screwed up. I don't know what it is about me and these swirls, but these swirls and I just do not get along. These two were the perfect match. I really like this dusty coral brown color. It had good flow out of the extra fine nib, but I felt more feedback on the Archivist paper versus the Tomoe River paper. I gave the ink a 9 because it's lovely, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the TWSBI Eco an 8. I love how these look on the swatches and how different they look. There's a lot more red happening on the Archivist paper, and then it looks so much more orange on the onion skin, the Yamamoto bank, and the bank, and even the Midori. But then on the Irofil, it definitely leans more coral and more pink, and then a little bit more brown actually on the Tomoe River paper and the Rhodia. Such an interesting ink. But then when you're doing your Zentangles, I mean, you don't see as much of those complexities when you're writing with an extra fine nib. But I did find, and what I am finding actually with the Archivist paper is that while it is definitely fountain pen friendly, I'm experiencing a little bit more feedback with my pens than I would have on my Tomoe River paper. Not so much so that it's becoming a, what's the word that I'm trying to say? An unpleasant experience, but I definitely notice more feedback, or the paper just has a bit more grab when you're running your pen across it. But overall, a really great pairing with my TWSBI Eco in the Caffe Bronze with Kitty Inkpot, a certain soft candy. Pen and ink combination number 13 is my Waterman Carene in the Sea Green Shimmer, and I have this inked with an ink that I got from a friend. It's a Diamine Canalside. I got this from Ina Christina when she came to visit Canada from the Philippines, and it was so nice to meet her, and I think she would love this combination. So I'll just move this out of the way here and then write in with my Browse ornament nib the number 13, and they're definitely it takes a little bit of learning and practice to get the control of this nib exactly the way you want it. But isn't that the fun part as well, being able to practice and then learn and continually progress? Because we're never going to get it right the first time we ever try something. So having the time to play and practice is also part of the fun. Look at that beautiful, beautiful dark green. And it's a lovely Diamine ink. So it is Diamine Canalside. And it is so beautifully smooth in this Waterman Carene. The Waterman Carene was definitely an underdog pen in my collection. Shimmer, because I hadn't expected to love this pen as much as I do, but it's such a classic look and it's a wonderful, wonderful writer. So let's look at this in my Archivist notebook. And I'm here in my Archivist notebook just using my water brush. And I'm deciding to use a water brush instead of just a regular paintbrush because I also want some of that, basically the effect of the water with the fountain pen ink. You can get some really beautiful shading. Lovely. And I'm also just getting used to this particular water brush as well. And if anyone is interested, I actually got this water brush, of all places, Winners. So it's not one that I can link in the comments, unfortunately, but there are water brushes available at Michael's or Amazon. Pretty. Look at that beautiful green. I'm going to add just a little bit more to this here so you can see the shading as it dries. Gorgeous. So we're now going to do a doodle, and this one is another design by Carene. And I always wonder, like I always get a little bit ambitious with some of these and think, yeah, this is going to turn out really, really well. And already there's a tiny little mistake there. But I think it was Sandy in my previous video who commented that Zentangle isn't about perfection. And that is so, so true, because it really just is about the practice and doing these lines over and over again to get what we want, but also some of those little imperfections that you see in each of the squares or the grids, those little imperfections you don't see when you look at the bigger picture. And I think that's what I like. I like the fact that you don't really have to look at individual grids and be like, oh, that line's not straight, and so on. But when you look at the bigger picture, it's just so beautiful, even with all the imperfections. I know, so philosophical today, Carene. Oh, this nib is just lovely. Beautiful. What a beautiful writing experience. I love the smooth Waterman 18K nib, and this green is a gorgeous match for the pen. It really has great flow. I gave the ink an 8, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Waterman Carene a 9. Diamine Canalside was an ink given to me by pen friend Ina, and I love how this looks on the different swatches. Look at all of the brown that's coming through on the archivist paper, and then even the way it looks on all of the 4 different papers down here. Onion skin, there's a lot of yellow coming through here, and then a lot more brown on the Yamamoto bank and the bank. There's more complexity happening on these 4 papers than really these 4. Really interesting to see. And then when we look at the doodle, there is a little bit of bleed through happening on from the previous page, but nothing that I'm too concerned about. This one was a fun one for me to do. It was literally just squares and filling in squares, and it looks really cool from far away. It looks like a really cool tile pattern. I really enjoyed this one, and I think it was because of how well the ink flowed out of the pen, and even the 18 karat Waterman Carene nib on this worked really well on the archivist paper. Just look at that nib, it's stunning. If you haven't tried a Waterman Carene before, I really recommend it. So that is the Waterman Carene with my Diamine Canalside. Pen and ink combination number 14 is my Walltown Watts in Glinda, and I have this inked with Kitty Inkpot Lost Rose. And this is such a beautiful, kind of purpley pink, and maybe not an exact match for Glinda, but it's just so pretty. And I think that's kind of been the theme with my pen and ink combinations this month, is that they don't always have to be an exact match in color or tone, but it's about the writing experience with them and basically what I felt like inking up. Lovely. So the ink is Kitty Inkpot Lost Rose in my Walltown Pens Watts model in Glinda. And this has a fine nib. Beautiful. Already loving that. It looks more purple in the writing sample than in the swatch, but it's just so pretty. And now let's go ahead and swatch on all of the different papers. It does remind me of Sailor Shikiori Yozakura, but it's so lovely. And I love that adding a little bit of water to it can make some of those shading properties come out a bit more, especially in the Kitty Inkpot inks. So it'll be really interesting to see this once it's dried and seeing it all on the different papers. You can already see some of like the purple coming out in the Tomoe River paper, and even in the Archivist paper. I've been very pleasantly surprised by this Archivist paper by Hemlock and Oak. I'm actually really loving it, and I'm so glad that I gave this notebook a try. Oh, lovely. Can't wait to see them all dry. So another design from Varney Carene, and this one I wanted to not have as many fine lines because this is a fine nib, funny enough, and it's one of my broader nibs, which is funny to say, but yeah, because I basically live in extra fine nibs, having a fine nib is a bit broader for me, so I wanted to pick a design that wasn't too fine. I'm using the word fine in so many different interchangeable meanings in this one paragraph. But I also like that this nib, even for a fine nib, can really show the chromo shading properties of this particular ink. I've had really good luck with my Kitty Inkpot inks so far, and they were a brand that I was introduced to in 2025, and I look forward to trying a few more this year. That's lovely. While this was not an exact match, I love how the ink goes from pink to purple, and it's got great flow and shading. So I gave the ink a 9, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of my Walltown Watts a 9. It's so fun looking at how this ink has reacted to all the different papers. You can see purple on the edges of everything and then pink there. This is a beautiful chromo shading ink. Now, unfortunately, obviously in extra fine and fine nibs, you're not going to see that much complexity, but it's still really cool to be able to swatch on the different papers and be able to see the different characteristics on each paper. And then we'll go ahead to my doodle or Zentangle here. I've used this one before, and you can tell I was having, I guess, some issues where I hadn't, or I don't think it was drying out necessarily, but I guess there wasn't enough ink in the feed. So I pushed through more ink through the converter into the feed, and then it flowed really, really well for the rest of that. This was one I also powered through within about the span of, I guess, an hour. I think it was about an hour. And I guess I'm gonna ask if any of you would be interested in watching me do like a real-time video doing one of all this, and it'll just be me doodling, maybe taking a little break, but it'll have just lovely background music. It could be one of those kind of videos that's on in the background where you're listening to some really, you know, calming music while you're watching me do a doodle. If you're interested in that, let me know. All right, so that is my Walltown Watts in Glinda with Kitty Inkpot Lost Rose. Pen and ink combination number 15. We have my Zodiac Penco in the, is this the Sagittarius model? I believe it is the Sagittarius model with Pilot Iroshizuku Murasaki-Shikibu. So number 15 on the last pen and ink combination for January. Now I don't know if I'm going to be doing 15 inks in February or even if I'll do it in March. We'll see how I feel. I think really one of the big themes that I have for this year is making sure that whatever I choose to do, I can handle. So the ink here again is Pilot Iroshizuku Murasaki, oh my gosh, Murasaki-Shikibu. And the pen is Zodiac Penco. And this is the Sagittarius. I think it's probably my favorite model, the Sagittarius, and it's in the primary manipulation 5, and this has an, I believe it's an extra fine imperial nib, which basically means the regular way writes like a cursive smooth italic, and then the reverse writes more like a medium or broad. Such a fun nib. So now using my water brush to do my paper swatches, and there's only some of the Pilot inks that I feel like are chromo shaders. Unlike Sailor, I feel like so many of them are chromo shaders. But when I'm adding a little bit of water to this and seeing the effect on the different papers, Murasaki-Shikibu is definitely an interesting color. I love purple, and the way that this is going to dry on all the different papers is exciting to me. I purchased this bottle before Christmas, and I think it was through an Amazon gift card. And it was one of those things where I'm like, do I really need this big bottle of Murasaki-Shikibu? And I'm like, yes, I do. Look at the way that it's already drying on the Midori. It's just gorgeous. Lovely. So this one is another pattern from Carene. Oops. See, this is not about perfection. And this one starts with a grid and then 2 diagonal lines, and then a triangle on this side, and another triangle on this side, and then, gosh, this is so wet and juicy, straight lines across. 3, 4, 5, 6. And I try to basically match 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just so that I can make sure that I have even lines across. Now this pen, because of the imperial nib, I can certainly turn it to that side. Oops. And try this way, although the pattern has me turning this way. Oh, I like it with the smoother side here. Cool. I'm gonna try it this way with the two different ways that you can hold the nib. That's cool. This was a fun combination. I love the extra fine imperial nib, and this Pilot ink flowed well. It was fun to use it both sides of this nib, and I had no issues. I gave the ink a 9 because it's just a beautiful purple, the flow a 10, and the comfort level of the Sagittarius model a 9. There is Pilot Iroshizuku Murasaki-Shikibu on all of the different papers. There's not a lot of variation actually on these different papers, which I guess in a way is a good thing as well, because if you are buying an ink and you're using it on different papers, you want to make sure it's consistent, and you want to make sure that the color that you're seeing online on a swatch is actually the color that you're going to see on your paper. And then I'll show you the doodle that I basically just did today, or just finished today while I was listening to an audiobook. Love the way that I could use the imperial nib on this, because the imperial nib on the right side, or the regular side, is an extra fine cursive smooth italic. So I really made use of the thin horizontal lines and then the broad downstrokes. Oh my goodness, my brain. But I really enjoy actually doing the doodles with the different types of nib grinds. It just makes it more fun. So there we have my Zodiac pen co in the Sagittarius model in the primary manipulation 5 with Pilot Iroshizuku Murasaki-Shikibu. So those are my pen and ink combinations for inks 11 through 15 for January. And it was fun to have a variation of colors. When I first chose these, I thought a certain soft candy would be too close to Kitty Inkpot Lost Rose, but now that I see them, they're very different. And I thought it would be too much to have 2 purples in the same group, but Sailor Shikiori Harahara is so different from Pilot Iroshizuku Murasaki-Shikibu, so I'm so glad that I did this combination. Really fun group of pens and inks. And then I will show you as well all of the roses completed for my 15 inks 30 days. This is inks 1 through 5, 6 through 10, and then 11 through 15. I love being able to see all of the inks in one place like this. It's just so fun to be able to see a completed grid. There's nothing more satisfying for me than seeing a completed grid like this. And that's probably why I get so motivated by doing challenges like this. It's so satisfying seeing it once it's all done. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Do watch out for next month's Currently Inked. In February, I will not be doing 15 inks 30 days, probably for the next couple of months, just to give myself a little bit of a break. January has been a crazy month, and there has been a lot going on, not just personally, but there's a lot of stuff going on out there in the world, and it's definitely going to have an effect on one's mental health. And being able to do things like this is a way for me to not necessarily escape what's going on in reality, but also to give me some semblance of balance amongst everything that can be causing us fear or grief or anger with what's happening in the world out there today. All right, again, that is it for me. Thank you all. And if you did like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. Thanks again, and have yourselves a great day.